From family obligations to gift shopping, it can really leave people feeling drained. And now talk of New Year's resolutions is starting to pile on. Joining us today is licensed therapist Huma Fatakia, founder and CEO of the Sage and Fifth Therapy Place, to discuss the psychological impact of setting goals during this busy season, how to manage stress, and why some people say they feel anxious rather than motivated heading into the new year. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yes, I wanted to start with this. Look, so many people start the year with big goals, but it's kind of overwhelming. They can feel that, anxiety. Why do New Year's resolutions maybe trigger some stress?
I think people set really lofty goals, right? And research shows that a lot of the times, in the first couple of months or even couple of weeks, things change or your motivations change. So what I always say to people is that when you're setting any resolutions, let's start with looking backwards into reflecting on the year. Right. So let's reflect on the year because it's probably not the first time you're setting resolutions. So let's think about the resolutions you set the previous year, what happened, what worked for you. So the beautiful thing about setting goals is that we want to have that process reveal something about ourselves, right? What is the change process that works for you? And it can be different for different people. So we really want to think about that because growth begins with self-discovery. So understanding yourself a little bit more of, let's say you set a goal of, a lot of people set goals about health. So, maybe you set this goal of going to the gym in the morning 4 times a week, and then that was a really lofty goal. You're not a morning person. So, it's just you're layering on two habits at the same time that you're trying to create. And that's where people kind of slip and fall into not being able to accomplish their goals. So that's one of the things that I say, like, let's start with understanding what worked. The second thing that I say is that when you're thinking about goals, that already sets you up when you're thinking about the previous year to set very achievable goals, right? So the more achievable your goals are going to be, understanding yourself, the better you're going to be at setting those goals. So yeah, it can be really lofty, but if you set achievable goals, there can be success there. Um, and then sometimes, we can set goals thinking about things that we don't like about ourselves or really negative limiting beliefs. And sustainable growth is only possible from a place of acceptance and compassion, right? So if you're coming from this place of not liking something about yourself, then that motivation can always be really almost demotivating because you're
Sure.
beating yourself
I,
up. So
uh-huh.
let's not do that.
I wanted to ask you, real quick, I thought you had a really good point. When I was looking back at 2025 goals, there was a little bit of a self-audit happening, right? And you said something about, okay, take an audit, look at the goals you hit, look at the ones you missed. I'm curious about the ones maybe you missed. Should you completely write those off, or should you be making some tweaks, or what would be a little tip you could add for maybe something like that?
So research shows that process-oriented goals that are based on forming a habit are more successful than outcome-based goals. So if you, let's say, have a goal of, let's say, losing 20 pounds, like that's not going to be as successful as, exercising 30 minutes for 3 days a week. So habit formation and focusing on that will set you up for more success than doing something that is based on the outcome. So, and also what you can do is if you already have a habit, stack on a new habit with that. So
Sure.
let's say you want to journal for 10 minutes a day. You already wake up and have your coffee. That's a habit. Like layer on that journaling with that coffee. So
Okay.
that habit stacking can be really helpful.
Give yourself a chance to succeed, I suppose, right? All
Mhm.
right, therapist Huma Fatakia, thank you so much for being with us. Happy New Year to you.